Welcome to Hot Springs National Park. This is technically our first national park in the United States and probably one of the most unique. Around 1804, William Dunbar and George Hunter, they were exploring some of the new territories in the United States, and they found several crude huts near a steaming spring in the Ouachita Mountains. A spring pretty much just like this. Their guides explained that people came to the area to soak in the hot water and recover their health. As word of the spring spread, Congress declared a 4 square mile reservation in 1832 to be used so that to protect the water for public use. So around 1832, this became a reservation, a national reservation, in order to protect the land and the water. The promise of improved health drew Civil War veterans and others with disabling conditions to crowded camps near these springs. They formed temporary communities of people who sought to ease their pain in the thermal waters. Early settlers ignored federal claims to the land. They built cabins and provided amenities to lure travelers to the famed springs. In 1876, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled against their private land claims and affirmed the nation's interest in making the thermal waters available to all. And then, around 1929, it became a national park. After the court's ruling, the federal government began regulating private bathhouses and took an active control over improvements that led to better sanitation and distribution of the water. And as we go along today, we'll not only see several of the springs, but some of the bathhouses that opened up in the late 1800s and early 1900s. Now, the springs, unlike other natural hot springs you find, are not caused by volcanic activity. Basically, rain and melted snow trickle down into cracks in brittle rock here along the ridges of the Ouachita Mountains. Gravity pulls the water slowly downward through a network of cracks in the Earth's rock crust. The rock temperature increases with depth, and the water emerges from the springs at an average temperature of about 143 degrees. When the water reaches a major fault on the western slope of Hot Springs Mountain, this is the western slope here, pressure propels it upwards. The hot spring water does not result from a volcanic process, as I mentioned. It's a round-trip journey from the recharge zone along the mountain ridges, from rain that falls down through into the Earth's crust, and that whole process takes roughly about 4,000 years to complete. We're going to take a look here at one of the early springs. Not only does the water have therapeutic value, or some people claim it has therapeutic value, it's also very safe to drink. In fact, it's some of the best tasting water around. You just need to let it cool down a little bit before you drink it.
I think so. Oh.
We're now heading into the area known as Bathhouse Row. Along the street here, where all the cars are, is what's known as Historic Central Avenue. As we reach our first bathhouse here, let's talk a little bit about Bathhouse Row. Bathhouse Row is the largest grouping of historic bathhouses in the United States, and it shows the popularity of the medical bathing and spa movement in the 19th and 20th centuries. The Row is also visibly stunning as an excellent collection of early 20th century architecture. Today, the preserved Bathhouse Row is a model of historic rehabilitation of older buildings. On April 20th, 1832, Congress established Hot Springs Reservation to protect the dozens of thermal springs that emerged from the base of Hot Springs Mountain for medical care and drinking. Bathers and business owners developed bathhouses to cool the water to a usable temperature and to provide therapeutic bathing to treat rheumatism, polio, muscle pains, venereal disease, and other ailments. The historic bathhouses that we see today as we walk along Bathhouse Row are actually the third generation of bathhouses in Hot Springs. The first bathhouses were crude structures made of canvas and lumber. Later, businessmen built wooden structures which were prone to rotting due to their continued exposure to the water and steam, and also were pretty well vulnerable to fires. The present-day bathhouses were built after the government set standards for the buildings and bathing facilities. The bathhouses range from simple to extremely luxurious. Each offered different price points and bathing treatments. Their exteriors incorporate such styles as the neoclassical, Renaissance Revival, Spanish, and Italian architectural styles. All of these were popular in the early 1900s. As Hot Springs became known as the American Spa at the turn of the century, visitors would stay for weeks receiving the full course of bathing treatments. The standard included 21 baths. Individual baths cost about 50 cents, but ranged from 35 to 65 cents, depending on the bathhouse, and up to $12 for a full course of treatments. At one point, nearly 100,000 baths a year were done in some of the busiest bathhouses. Now, from the 1970s to the 1980s, many of these bathhouses fell into disrepair. Many were in really poor shape. In 1987, Bathhouse Row was designated a National Historic Landmark, and the community rallied to secure funding to restore Fordyce Bathhouse, which we'll go into in just a little bit, in 1989. Let's take a look at some of the bathhouses in more detail. This is Superior Bathhouse. Maybe not quite as ornate as some of its neighbors that we'll see. It's very modest in appearance. Its owners emphasized a therapeutic program, and interior rooms where marble and brass fostered a hygienic environment. Known for, quote, superior service to its patrons, it far surpassed the experiences of travelers to early bathhouses. This particular bathhouse was built around 1916. It was also the longest continuous operation of all hot springs bathhouses when it closed initially in 1983. It's since been reopened. Continue along Bathhouse Row. This is the Hale Bathhouse. The Hale Bathhouse was originally built in 1892, but the style was dramatically altered in 1914 and again in 1939. Its brick, originally it was built of brick, was covered with stucco, and a red tiled roof was installed, give it more of a Spanish colonial look. Picture of the early Hale bathhouse. I do have another video highlighting the actual town of Hot Springs. This video is just going to focus on the national park. This is the Maurice Baths. Go up and take a little bit closer look. Maurice Baths Therapeutic Pool. Maurice Baths came along around 1911. It replaced an earlier wooden Victorian building. This Mediterranean style building done in masonry set the standard for all other bathhouses on Bathhouse Row. Tons of aquatic images that you can see, blue tiles. Inside there are some mythical sea creatures on the stained glass ceiling. And the therapeutic pool that we saw, the Maurice Baths therapeutic pool, is actually in the basement, maintained in the basement of the building. This here is the official entrance. Well, first to the hot springs. 1893, 1896. And then the national park. This is the Fordyce Bathhouse. It's also the visitor center for the National Park Service. This is where you can get information about the National Park. And also there's a museum inside that we'll take a look at here in just a few minutes. Fordyce Bathhouse is a Renaissance revival bathhouse built in 1915. As we go inside here in a minute, we'll take a look at just how ornate the bathhouses were. But before we go inside, let's take a look at just a couple more bathhouses, and we'll come back. This is the Quapaw baths. Quapaw were one of the American native tribes that were in this area when European Americans first discovered the springs. You can tell that by the ornate American Indian, the building. There's also one with a domed roof. As I mentioned, not only the Quapaw, but the Caddo and Choctaw tribes lived or visited this area in the 1700s and 1800s. This particular building pays homage to the last influence. They named it after the Quapaw Indians. And as I mentioned, there is that Indian head design over the entrance to the building. It's also one of the larger bathhouses. Somebody within the hospital. This is the Ozark bathhouse. The Ozark bathhouse is done in the Mission style, kind of a Southwest style. You can tell by the towers, the tile roofs, just the style itself. This is done in the style kind of to honor Hernando de Soto, who visited the hot springs area back in the 1700s. Now you can still take baths, therapeutic baths, massages in a couple of these bathhouses. One of them you can is this one here, the Buck Staff baths. For a price you can go in and do a private bath. I believe the Buck Staff also has a public bathing area. Various prices. A lot of people come here and do massages, baths, all kinds of things.
On Bathhouse Row.
And another bathhouse that's open to the public. This one's a little bit more exclusive. Run by vendors who work for, or don't work for, but are operated by the National Park Service. This is the Lamar Bathhouse. It was built in 1923 and it's what is known as the California style of architecture. So let's walk back to the Fordyce Bathhouse and take a look inside the bathhouse itself in the museum that they have. hard to imagine about 40 years ago, most of these were run down, buildings were closed, boarded up, a lot of issues with them. And through a massive effort, they've all been restored, and definitely some of the most beautiful buildings, not only in Arkansas, but in the entire National Park Service as well. Bathhouse is beautiful. Take a look up here at some of the sea creatures on the shell on the structure. Dome roof with the tile. Copper cupola at the top. Again, let's go inside here to the Fordyce Bathhouse and take a look. It's known as the ladies' cooling room. It's a place to relax after your baths. You could socialize, you could read, you could just doze, cool off after your warm, therapeutic thermal bath. It's known as the pack room. It's where warm packs were applied to alien parts of your body. Maybe it would be your back or your legs. Help drive some of the ailments away. This is the ladies' bath hall. Various bathtubs. What looks like torture equipment, but not. This is the hydrotherapy room. Imagine all that water just pouring on you from all those different nozzles. And if you really needed more, They could just squirt you down like a fire hose, with a fire hose almost. These devices kind of look like torture devices, but are not. They're called steam cabinets. The temperature in the steam or vapor cabinet was about 115 to 140 degrees, and it caused your body to sweat. Good for rheumatism, jaundice, obesity, all kinds of different therapies. This is the men's bath hall. A little bit more ornate than the women's one is. This dome skylight here has 8,000 pieces of glass and represents Neptune's daughters. There's some mermaids, dolphins, and fish. Very much kind of a club-like atmosphere here when it was used, with men talking and getting their treatments. Let's go over this way. Let's go upstairs. There's 3 floors to this bathhouse. Some nice displays about the park. This is the women's dressing room. Up here, open up into the sky. So it's known as the ladies' court. Nice lounging area, chairs. Various type of mechanical massage equipment. And massage tables. Here's a leg lift table, our chair. These are individual massage rooms where you would get your therapeutic massage. There'd be orange heat lamps, electrical devices, people just kind of whacking you and getting rid of the kinks in your muscles and aches and pains in your joints. Even some electrical equipment give you small electrical shocks. And these are the cabinets for the men's dressing room for changing. This is the men's side of the courtyard. Another exhibit. Some of the different towels and sponges and here we go. Please do not urinate in the vapor. No peeing in the shower hall. Glass elevator. Let's go to the third floor. Parlor. Wow, this is beautiful. It's like a sunroom. Some of the outfits worn in the early 1900s. There's some women's outfits in the early 1900s. Dress is beautiful. It's called the assembly room. Also the music room back over here. More stained glass. This particular bath is used for those who couldn't walk. Somebody could lower you down on this wooden stretcher. This is the ladies' parlor. Nice little relaxing sitting area. Just the tile work on the floor is beautiful. They even had a beauty parlor. ladies' massage rooms. Electromassage. Not quite sure I'd want that. This is what's known as a stateroom. You can rent the whole room for the day, do your treatments, come back and rest, your own private changing room. 22 of these private staterooms. Once you've had your massage or before your bath, it's a gymnasium. Therapeutic exercises, kind of the early Planet Fitness. We head down to the basement. It's a mechanical room.